you'll still be infrared there, so just double check. Yeah, that's fine. Cool. Okay, so I'm here with John Watts from FDA Year 2. Just going to talk about his final project. So tell us about your role throughout the project and your main responsibilities of it as well.
My role was part of the creative directors, specifically to do with the Vampire Weekend stars. Initially, it was just the idea was to songwrite for our EP and recordings. And then I would be later on arranging songs and obviously featuring on the EPs, playing guitar.
Okay. So, how would you describe your success within this role, and what were the problems that you faced with just throughout the project really, and how did you overcome them as well?
Sorry, could you repeat the first part?
Yeah, that's fine. How would you describe your success throughout the project and the role that you were given, and what were the problems that you encountered as well, and how did you overcome them?
Okay. I think obviously through the demo it went very well. It wasn't my song wasn't picked, but the demo was, I think, a valid part of the process. So in that way, I think it was very successful. Issues, I'm not really sure, to be honest. I think initially I probably could have spent more time analysing the songs before I started writing. I did a lot of amending from, because as on my blog I'd seen that there was a version of the song that I wrote which was more minor, where then I listened to the album and I had to change my song because they seem to have a more major tonality for the Vampire Weekend, I mean. So I think that was a mistake to begin with, really. I should have, I think Step was the only one that I'd actually heard, so I sort of went on a tangent before writing and then researched and then had to go back to my song and kind of redo it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
What else would you like answering from that question?
That's pretty much it, really. Just
That's fine.
Because you said about how you overcame it and stuff and what you did. So, what have you learned from the project, and sort of from any mistakes you've made, or just basically what you've learned or developed as a musician, really, and what sort of listening skills or anything like that, people's skills and working with other musicians?
I think the project has taught me mostly to be able to work almost spontaneously, if you know what I mean. Like with changes, be prepared for changes in in a sort of business-like situation, if you like, if you want to put it that way. I think musically it's been obviously looking into sort of Raikuda, sort of got that kind of Latin American kind of style, if you like. Then there's Laura Marling's songwriting, singer-songwriting kind of thing. Vampire Weekend, they have that kind of sort of poppy rock, if you like. So I think musically it's been the opportunity to analyse things in completely different ways, look into different styles. And being able to incorporate that into playing and composing, I'd say.
How did you find it in the recording studios and stuff like that, actually being recorded? Was there any difficulties you had during then, or anything you found that that made you more comfortable as a performer?
Studio work was it was interesting. I think it was. I'm not really used to recording. I'm much used to live situations, so I think obviously having all sorts of, I tend to play a lot with reverb, for example, so having that stripped back and then hearing things through, you know, had to be put through the headphones and completely stripping back a song. You know, it makes you concentrate on the composition to a much further degree than what you used to playing, and you know. For example, the Raikuda song for Lee, where mine was a lead part, where my improvisation had to come into play. To record that was very difficult because it was, especially when it was decided that we wanted the saxophone as well. That became a problem. We had to readjust the way that we did it because, you know, there was more of a focus on sections had to land in certain areas of the song, and you know. So I don't know. I think it was a good experience. I think that's probably what I'd say about it.
Do you think you'll approach like studio sessions a lot differently now to the way you would before?
In what way?
Like you said, like in a live environment, you have like more choice over like your sort of like effects and the way you approach it. But when you're in a studio, things have to be done in like a certain specific way. Like certain parts have to be like specific certain parts. So like if you go into a studio now, like how would you approach it? I don't know if that's a relevant question. Or...
I'm not sure how I'd approach it. I think. I'm not sure if I have an answer for that question, to be honest.
That's great. Go on to the next one. With your demo piece and also with Lee's piece as well, can you sort of give us an insight on how to sort of like compose the parts for it and sort of how you related that to the source material, like with Raikuda, like the lead part and stuff like that?
Yeah, sure. Well, if we start with the Vampire Weekend one, which was my original role, before I was asked to do the lead part for Raikuda, the Vampire Weekend style song was primarily based on Diane Young. When I listened to that song, I like the upbeat kind of more. It seemed to have a more poppy rock kind of thing rather than this sort of. They're very experimental, I think, with the other songs. If you listen to Step in comparison to Diane Young, they had this. You know, it's very. A simple way to describe it. It's a very easy-going song for Step. Diane Young had this kind of upbeat kind of tempo and still major tonality kind of thing, but it's more of an upbeat feel. So, yeah, you know, I decided to take influence from that, and yeah, that's pretty much how I came up with that kind of thing. I wanted something, obviously being a guitarist, that is very typical of a guitarist to have a very busy part. Which was, I think I kind of did that mostly in lieu of the fact that I didn't have like a keyboard. They have a very busy kind of keyboard part. So I think that was kind of where I got that kind of idea of the busy guitar part, but with that upbeat sort of poppy rock kind of feel. Raikuda was the track Moi Fifi, I think how you pronounce it. And listening to to that song, it has a little sort of guitar motif in it, and then at the end there are little sort of I'm assuming it's been improvised, but basically it has a lead guitar solo essentially, which is pretty much exactly the same kind of idea as what I used for Lee's Raikuda song. Just I made up a little motif for it, and then I have my improvised sections to add to the song really.
Okay. So what was it? How do you think that project could have been handled better? Like not with just like either the songwriting or things you've done, or just like the whole project in general. What do you think could have been done better to improve it, or what would you do on the second time round?
I'm not sure really. I think
be as honest as you want to be.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think we could have had a clearer understanding of what we're meant to do from the start. I think, not just myself, I think it threw a lot of people off where we were meant to be going. Obviously, after the Paul's, I think what helped us as a group was that CPA thing. I think, everyone seemed to. I don't know. I think it kind of lifted up after we had that little meeting and we made our plan kind of thing. I think that might be possibly why we didn't really seem to do any more meetings, but I don't think it was necessary after that. I think people knew what they had to do, even with dealing with changes to, change of plan. Consistent seemed to be change of plans, and I think they've been dealt with adequately. I think, but I think we could have. I think morale overall and the success in the project would have been much better if we'd had one clear plan at the beginning, and we went through it like a timeline, stuck to everything the way it was meant to be from the beginning, and not have changes throughout. And then I don't know. I think maybe we might have even accomplished having our original, well, not original, but the 6 songs that we were then intending. We might have been able to have the 6 songs plus a launch as well. I don't know. I imagine.
You think it's also like sort of like a problem between us, like letting us have our own brief because we're like unexperienced, we're students, and then also we get the freedom, but we also don't get it as well.
Yeah, but yeah, possibly there's some. I think that's to be taken into account. So, yeah, I think overall it's been everything's been a bit sporadic, to be honest.
Do you think it's a bit of a problem, like saying like, sort of like you have so much to choose from with writing your own brief that can become a problem because there's too much out there to write instead of just give us something to write and we'll do that.
Yeah, I mean essentially that could be, the nail on the head really. Just how much freedom do we have, and to write our own brief. Sorry, I think that personally I think we followed what we intended to do. Having read the brief myself, I thought we've done a fairly good job. But I think in any kind of project you'd always look back on something and say this could have been done differently. But I think it will in the end just be a trial and error process, something to learn from.
Last question: how do you think the songs that you've worked on and like the ideas you've implemented, how different do you think they are, or to the final songs that we have, really, like the 3 albums we've listened to, how different do you think they are, and how important do you think it is to sort of put your own flavour on these songs you've written instead of just following exactly what they do, and sort of how possible do you think it is to actually copy what another artist has done 100%?
Personally, I think it's great to take influence from the songs that that was the general idea, but I think to build as a musician you have to be able to, by all means, take the influence, but be creative with it. You can't. I mean, to copy somebody else's work is, I don't know. For me, there's no point in copying exactly. You have to be able to take the influence from it, understand, tools, if you like, in which they've created this music, but take it further on a different path to what they've done. That's I think the best way to learn music. Really, I think you have to take it into a different creative path and use it in your way to kind of express your own understanding in these genres, which I think with these songs is, I think it kind of demonstrates that, because there's no, I think you can pick out elements that we've, been influenced by, from these albums, and then, you can see though the way it's been sort of slightly moulded into our own compositions, our own creative piece of work.
Okay, that's it.
Brilliant. Thank you.
That was really good. Really interesting. Right, I'll edit to these and I'll get into you as well. So I'm going to try and do all of these tonight.
Sorry. It's probably a bit of a babble as I'm trying to think of what I'm trying to say on the spot.
No, it's completely fine. I was just like, people have like quite interesting